Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation for Assessment 2A, and we will be doing it on Barangaroo Reserve. In 2003, the Barangaroo project was publicly announced where the walls would become transformed into an urban precinct. This concept was approved in 2007 to 2008, and then in 2015, it was publicly opened by the New South Wales Premier. Down in the bottom left corner, you can see a before image of this precinct and then the after image. How did Barangaroo get its name? Barangaroo was named after an Aboriginal woman who was independent and rejected the offerings of these colonists, unlike her husband, who would instead dine with them and accept their offerings.
Now, looking at the Barangaroo Reserve, we selected three key areas to focus our observations on. These three areas include Wyloo Mill, Stargazer Lawn, and Narwee Cove. These three areas are outlined on the map shown. Focusing on Narwee Cove to start, here are some of the key features we found from our observations. Here are some additional features that we observed.
Looked at who was stationary for more than 2 minutes, whether they were standing or sitting. The first image shows the morning where only 3 construction workers were sitting on a seat. The second image is in the afternoon and shows a tour group clustered together and one woman sitting by the stairs under a tree. During the night, we had 2 people talking on the walkway, a couple sitting on the rocks, and also a man sitting on the bench.
During our studies of Narwee Cove, we recorded and mapped out the movement paths that the passing civilians took. From the data collected, we can see how in the afternoon there was considerably more people in the area. And we also noted that most runners came during the evenings, and men used the area more than women. It was also evident that people tended to use the asphalt walkway opposed to the gravel walkway. Moving on to Stargazer Lawn, here are some of the images we took during the evening. Here are some of the key features we observed in the area, including safety signs, security cameras, and a large open space lawn.
Stargazer Lawn during the morning, the only people who were stationary were 2 sightseers looking at a map, a man exercising, and a woman taking a seat by the path. During the afternoon, 2 women were lounged under a tree, as well as a couple under another tree. A man was also exercising situated under a tree near the bubblers. In the night, we had no people who were stationary for greater than 2 minutes.
From our movement studies, we found that Stargazer Lawn was busiest during afternoons and evenings. We also observed that runners did not use the area frequently. Our final area of study was Wyloo Mill. Here are some photographs that we took. Here are some of the key features found in the area.
In Wyloo Mill in the morning, it appears that not many people were stationary. This could be due to the fact that fertilizer was placed under trees during this time. You can see that one woman sat by the footpath at the bottom, a male and female jogger stopped by the stone display, 2 park workers stopped and talked to each other during this time as well. The afternoon was fairly busy once the smell had left the area. People sat on the rocks by the water and on the grass, with only one person sitting on a bench near the footpath. A similar observation can also be made from the third diagram.
From the data we collected and observed in Wyloo Mill, we discovered that there was a tendency for people to use the walkways closest to the water's edge. Furthermore, we can recognize that the area was busiest during the afternoon period, and that males were the primary users of the area. It can also be noted that runners did not tend to use the area as much during the morning period. To sum up our findings with regards to the movement of people in the Barangaroo Reserve, we formulated several behaviors that people displayed during our observations. The first one, cherry picking, describes the tendency people had to walk along the asphalt walkway rather than the gravel one. The second behavior we observed, dendrophilia, is the tendency people had to sit near or under trees rather than away from trees or on the provided park benches. The next behavior that became evident through our studies was hydrophilia, the tendency to use the walkways closest to the water edge. The final reoccurring behavior we identified we named Dul on Mustafa. This describes the tendency people had to either sit at the highest locations or lowest locations of the area.
Okay, now for stairs versus elevator. It can be seen that people who use the stairs and elevators used them at similar times. This is likely due to a coincidence. Another finding depicts that younger people tended to use the stairs more often rather than the elevator. We also scraped data from Twitter using Node Excel. During the first week, we ended up seeing that there was a post which ended up talking about COVID-19 case at Westpac. This may have scared people away from the Barangaroo area or walking outside of the Barangaroo area, such as the Barangaroo Reserve. Another person on Twitter talking about the Barangaroo area was a woman asking whether the Subaru Forester 2019 advertisement was taken at the Barangaroo Reserve. As you can see, they got a response that this was indeed spot on, and it was at Stargazer Lawn. It can also be seen that on Twitter, there was also many posts about an art fair at Narwee Cove's Cutaway. According to the website for this art fair was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During the second week, we can also see that there was another post made about the art fair and how you shouldn't forget to pick your tickets up. Strange considering the fact that the art fair was postponed for another time. Another post was also made in both weeks 1 and 2 under the search term Barangaroo in Node Excel. You can see here that people plan to save up for a bottle of alcohol to enjoy at Barangaroo Reserve in October and November later this year. During the second week, still under the search term of Barangaroo, people were still retweeting the fact that Westpac had a COVID-19 case, showing that there was indeed some sort of panic on Twitter. Another interesting finding on Node Excel under the search term of Barangaroo was that a person tweets about walking in Barangaroo Reserve at 11 p.m, saying that they're practicing social distancing. On this slide from 4Kstagram during week 1, we can see that there were many images of water scenery as well as the bridge scenery. Week 1 also included images of people, signs, flags, interiors, and more flags. So for week 2, under the search term Barangaroo Reserve in 4Kstagram, we got images of water and rocks in cluster 1, images of the bridge from the rocks, as well as the buildings under development. Cluster 4 contains images of the staircase as well as rocks. Cluster 5 to 6 contain images of water from the ledge as well as the bridge. Cluster 7 includes a variety of images of people. Cluster 8 includes more images of people. Cluster 9 includes images of Barangaroo signs. Cluster 10 is random images of frames. Cluster 11 includes images of people as well as building interiors. Cluster 12 includes images of people and buildings. Thank you for listening to our presentation.